Hi, my name is Carrie Faniff, and I'm the Vice President of Loss Prevention at Texas Lawyers Insurance Exchange. Today, we're going to do a Fast 15 on the Texas advertising rules. Now, we're not going to go into a deep dive on all the rules. We're going to kind of hit the high notes and talk about the things that most often cause problems or stumbling blocks for lawyers when they're dealing with lawyer advertising. Just a little bit about me before we get started. I've been on staff at TLIE since July of 2024. Before that, I was in private practice for 26 years. And during that time, I defended lawyers in malpractice claims and in grievances before the State Bar of Texas. And so that's how I'm able to talk to you all about these topics here today. Again, we're not going to go into the nitty gritty. We're just going to stay very high level because we only have about 15 minutes. So jumping right in, what is an attorney advertisement? And just another little caveat, we're going to talk about advertisements. We're not really going to be talking about solicitations, although sometimes attorney solicitations are also governed by these same rules, but we're mainly going to focus on advertising for today's purposes. So Texas Disciplinary Rule Professional Conduct 7.01 is what governs attorney advertising. And it tells us that an advertisement is a communication which is substantially motivated by pecuniary gain. So that's the main element that needs to be focused on. It's made by or on behalf of a lawyer to members of the public in general, which offers or promotes their legal services. And here on the slide, I have our favorite lawyer, Better Call Saul Goodman, in one of his billboards. So, of course, a billboard would would qualify as attorney advertising and would fall under this rule 7.01. So very high levels where we're going to start, and then I'm going to go into more detail. But in general, as it applies to all things advertising, nothing can be false, misleading, or deceptive. So here on the right, I have the big, juicy, wonderful gourmet hamburger. Actually, that's on the left. And then on the right, we have the kind of plain, not exciting hamburger. So you have as advertised and in reality, and those things cannot be different. So what does false, misleading, or deceptive mean? Well, again, we're going to look at Rule 7.01, and importantly, it applies to whatever means are being used to communicate the advertisement. So it's billboards, TV ads, circulars, email blasts, social media, websites. And then again, it has to be truthful and not deceptive. There can be no material misrepresentations of fact or law, and it cannot omit facts that would be necessary in order for something to not be misleading. So you can be misleading by both by what you include and by what you leave out. It has to have factual foundation, and it cannot create unjustified expectations about the results that lawyers can achieve. And frankly, this is a big one for me because there's so much flooding of the market with attorney ads promising results, and not picking on any one lawyer group, but it has mainly to do with personal injury lawsuits. And I do think there is this notion that you can, win all this money when that is not necessarily the case for the majority of these kind of lawsuits. So we have to be very careful about not creating unjustified expectations about results. And we'll talk about that a little bit in some of the other slides. So again, I don't like to talk at you and tell you what the rule says without trying to give you some concrete examples. So in this slide, I have examples of false and misleading communications. One of them would be, we never settle. Well, that would be false or misleading because a lot of times you do end up settling, and it's not always in your control. If your client receives a settlement offer that they want to take, it is their decision whether to settle or not. Or something would be false, misleading if you said, we will get you acquitted. Well, you know what? Your client might be guilty of sin, and acquittal is just not possible. So that would be false or misleading because you're promising some kind of unjustified result there. Some concrete examples of things that really happened is a law firm said, for over 40 years, we have been putting experience and knowledge to work for the people like you. And that was false and misleading because that law firm had not been in existence for 40 years, and none of the attorneys in the firm had 40 years of experience. There was an advertisement that listed the number for the firm in 4 cities where the firm presumably had offices. And in fact, the law firm didn't have any offices in those cities. So that was false and misleading. And there's some other ones here that you can see on the slide. But just be very careful that you are completely factually accurate in everything that you are stating in your advertising, and be very careful of puffery or things that get really close to the line. So if you're going to do any kind of advertising, then Rule 7.04a says that you shall file that advertising with the Advertising Review Committee not later than 10 days after that ad is disseminated. There's a list of things that you have to do when you send that ad into the ARC. The particulars of that are listed on the State Bar website, but you need to follow what Rule 704 says and the guidelines that are on the State Bar website. There are exemptions to this, or the exceptions to this, I should say, is if you're just doing a tombstone ad. What does that mean? Something that merely has contact information, dates of admission to the bar, areas of practice, that you accept credit cards, and what languages you speak, that are very not promoting your services in any way. That might be exempt from the ARC requirements, or if it's not a communication that is not prepared to secure paid professional employment. But if there is any doubt, you should just go ahead and do it. A failure to do so can result in fines and penalties, and also you could be found to have violated a disciplinary rule, because this is a rule, 704, requiring filing with ARC is a disciplinary rule. The advertising review filing requirement includes your website. A common issue is lawyers forgetting or failing to submit their websites or the homepage of their website with the link to the ARC. Online profiles, directories, and web pages are subject to the advertising rules. So again, don't skip this requirement, or you're going to be subject to penalties and also could find yourself with a grievance. There is a safety net, however, and the reason you might need this safety net is because if you've already disseminated the ad and then you file it 10 days later with the ARC, and the ARC says, wait a minute, that was false or misleading, then you still could be in a little bit of trouble with the State Bar. But to avoid any issues with that, if you have any questions about anything in your advertising, there's a safety net, and we find that at Rule 704C. You can submit your ad to the ARC for pre-approval at least 30 days before it is disseminated. The nice thing about this is that if the ad goes to the ARC and they say, nope, you got to fix this, this, and this, so you're not in compliance with the advertising rules, that is not binding in a disciplinary action. They will send it back to you, you're given the opportunity to fix it, and then you can go forward. If you are found to be in compliance, you submit it for pre-approval to the ARC. They're like, yes, you're good to go. That is binding in favor of the lawyer if the ad was accurately described, and it's admissible as evidence if offered by the party. So take advantage of this safety net. There's no reason not to, especially if you're doing a print advertising, website, something where you have the luxury of time. Go ahead and do it. Recently, in the past year, a couple of years, I think in 2021, Texas got the ability to use trade names for law firms. We did not previously have that ability, but now in 7.01c, it says that lawyers may practice law under a trade name that is not false or misleading. Again, what did I start out with? You cannot have anything that is false, misleading, or deceptive. That includes trade names. So I have on this slide some examples of things that were considered false and misleading. U.S. Legal Services Group Well, that implies an affiliation with a government where there is none. The patent law experts. If no one in the firm is actually a registered patent attorney or certified as a specialist, that would be false or misleading. The People's Law Firm of Jan L. Shepard, attorney PC, that was found to be deceptive because it implied that there was some kind of public control of the firm or low cost or free legal services. So be careful with your trade names. They still have to follow and pass muster under the disciplinary rules. One of the places, just kind of moving right along, where lawyers get tripped up is when they post or they advertise past case successes and results. They'll say, we got a jury verdict of $1 million. Well, when that can be found to be false and misleading if your client did not actually end up recovering that $1 million. If the amount was later reduced or reversed, or your client actually settled for less than that, then you have to state that. It would be false to only advertise the jury verdict without also advertising the fact that, well, the client didn't actually end up getting that at the end of the day because circumstances changed. That is Rule 7.01G, and I did see a lot of lawyers fail to comply with that. If you list an overall amount, let's say we settled for $1 million. Well, the client's not getting $1 million in their pocket. Let's be honest. You're going to take out expenses and you're going to take out attorney's fees. And so again, it's false and misleading to only advertise what the settlement was without also advertising, well, the client at the end of the day after, we paid the doctor's bills and this and the attorney's fees, the client's take home was only, $500,000 or whatever it is. So you have to be forthright about what the client actually got. Another issue regarding past case successes and results are lesser experienced lawyers. Maybe they were second or third chair, and they are claiming credit for a case result when they really only had a minor role in that case. And so what Rule 7.01, comment 10 says is that a lawyer can only claim credit for a prior judgment or settlement if they played a substantial role in achieving the result. Examples of that would be lead counsel or someone who was primarily responsible for that legal matter. If you're just a minor player, then you really cannot and should not be claiming credit for that. Where I saw this happen a lot was on firm websites where the attorneys were listing in their bio, on their bio page, their past results or past successes, and you had first year or second year lawyers that were claiming credit for some trial result when maybe they weren't even second chair at trial. They worked on the case, but they were not primarily responsible for that result. So that can cause some problems. Jean Major has been the attorney with the ARC who's been in charge of reviewing most of these ads. And a recent interview with him that I read, he said one of the things that people fall into, and this one's a difficult one because it's not specifically called out in the rule or the comments, is when they list accolades or honors. So typically, people like to say, well, I was a super lawyer, or I was a best lawyer in America, or I was D Magazine best lawyer. And the reason where they get in trouble is because they don't attribute to that recognition the actual publisher that is affiliated with that honor. So, for example, you would say, I was a super lawyer. Super Lawyers is sponsored by Thomson Reuters. And you have to put all that on your website bio or wherever it is that you're advertising this. You also have to include the years that you received that award. It would be false and misleading to just say, I was a super lawyer, because that, does that mean how many years? All years that they've ever had the super lawyer award? You have to designate the specific year that you received the award, because you may have received it for 21, 22, but not 23, and then you got it again in 24. So it would be misleading to let somebody believe that you received it for all of those years when in fact you only received it for a few. So again, that's one that people kind of don't really know about, but it is an issue and they will call you out on it at the ARC. Okay, the one that I think is kind of the biggest problem and will continue to be a problem is social media. Social media includes Facebook, Twitter or X, Instagram, LinkedIn, anywhere that is, where you're putting information out there, that is subject to the advertising rules if you're doing it, if it's, substantially motivated by pecuniary gain. And so, it's a good marketing tool, but you have to be very careful, because if you are doing the things, remember we defined what an ad was at the beginning of this presentation. If your social media post falls into that definition, then it is subject to 701 and you need to follow those guidelines. If you're discussing your services, results, or encouraging new clients to hire you, if you're marketing yourself as an attorney, if it is a communication prepared to secure paid professional employment, then that post is subject to 701 and the filing requirements and what have you. So some concrete examples of what that might sound like. These things were actual posts that somebody did that were found to have violated the advertising rules. A lawyer posted, "Another great victory in court today. My client is delighted. Who wants to be next?" Another post, "Won $1 million verdict. Tell your friends and check out my website." And then last, "Won another personal injury case. Call me for a free consultation." All of those were found to be advertisements that were subject to the advertising rules. So be very careful about that. I see a lot of lawyers and some law firms in these social media groups. You have a Facebook group for all Texas lawyers or all women lawyers, and sometimes those posts get very close to the line. Exemptions from that would be if it's just purely educational, informational, editorial, or political, unless they meet the other definition of what an advertising is. If you are confused or you need more information about that, because I'm not able to do a deep dive in our short time together, you need to read the ARC, the Advertising Rules Committee Interpretive Comment 17. You can find it on the State Bar website at texasbar.com/ad review, or you can review the TYLA, the Texas Young Lawyers Association Pocket Guide on Social Media 101. So thanks so much. That's our 15 minutes on the Texas advertising rules. You can contact me at RSKMGMT for more information.